tonight on NewsCenter. President Park Geun-hye will head to Washington, D.C. later this month to attend the 2016 Nuclear Security Summit. Although not on the official agenda, North Korea's nuclear issue will likely be discussed. A whole new level of political maneuvering in Korea's three main parties as election time draws near. From candidate nominations to the question of an alliance bloc, we'll have the details. And front-runners Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump dominate one of the biggest days of the 2016 U.S. presidential race so far. Clinton's pivot to the general public take two, and another big night for Trump. NewsCenter begins right now. It is 9 a.m. in New York, 1 p.m. in London, and 10 on a Wednesday night here in Seoul. Hello and welcome to our viewers all across the globe. You're watching Arirang News Center. President Park Geun-hye will travel to Washington later this month to attend the fourth and final Nuclear Security Summit. There, she'll seek to shore up international support on reining in North Korea's nuclear ambitions. Now, for that and more on the president's itinerary during her overseas tour later this month, here's our Kim Jung-soo.
This year's Nuclear Security Summit will be held back in its home city of Washington, where U.S. President Barack Obama hosted the first such event in 2010. With the goal of preventing nuclear terrorism around the world. More than 50 world leaders and the heads of international organizations like the UN and the International Atomic Energy Agency will be present to discuss countermeasures against the threat of nuclear terrorism and adopt a joint communique. On the sidelines of the summit, President Park is also slated to hold a handful of summit talks. This will include trilateral talks with U.S. President Barack Obama and Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe, where North Korea's nuclear issues are likely to dominate discussions. President Park then will fly to Mexico City for summit talks with her Mexican counterpart, Enrique Peña Nieto. The two countries will agree upon ways to enhance cooperation in various sectors ranging from ICT to security and education. In both cities, President Park will seek greater cooperation on implementing the sanctions on North Korea after its recent threat of a fifth nuclear test. Kim Jung-soo, Arirang News.
Well begun is half done is what some may think of the UN Security Council's stronger than ever resolution against North Korea, as well as other unilateral measures. But Seoul's ambassador to the U.S. says just as important as gaining international approval for those sanctions or even more crucial, in fact, is carrying out those measures. Our foreign affairs correspondent, Kwon So-ah.
South Korea's top envoy to the U.S., An Ho-young, spoke highly of the bilateral cooperation between Seoul and Washington in bringing about multilateral and unilateral sanctions on North Korea for its nuclear test and missile launch earlier this year, but stressed that nothing is complete unless you put it in final shape. His remark comes in regards to the implementation of the sanctions during a meeting with reporters at Seoul's foreign ministry on Wednesday.
No matter how powerful and effective the UN Security Council sanctions are, the process of implementing them is much more important than the passing of a resolution or a law. As that process is still remaining, we will devote ourselves into further South Korea-U.S. cooperation.
The ambassador also mentioned that it's the strong alliance between South Korea and the U.S. that has resulted in the overwhelming approval of U.S. lawmakers in passing independent U.S. sanctions on Pyongyang. As to the implementation of UN Security Council sanctions, Chinese ambassador to South Korea Chiu Guo-hong vowed Beijing will, quote, strictly and seriously implement the new sanctions. During a lecture he held in Seoul Wednesday, Ambassador Chiu stressed that Pyongyang went against existing UN resolutions, which is why it should pay the price for its behavior, and that's why China took responsibility in putting together the new set of sanctions. On that front, the U.S. is currently working hard with China, too, according to the head of the U.S. Treasury, Jack Lew, earlier this week, saying Beijing's support of the tough sanctions was very significant. Kwon So-ah, Arirang News.
North Korea has handed down a 15-year-long prison time with hard labor to an American college student who had been on a tour in North Korea for New Year's. The 21-year-old American said he tried to steal a propaganda banner as a trophy for an acquaintance, which amounted to subversion according to North Korean standards. But given the North's history of using detained Americans to bring in high-profile figures, this could be Pyongyang's another bid for attention. For more on this story, here's Kim Mo-kyun.
North Korea has sentenced another American. Otto Warmbier has been sentenced to 15 years of hard labor for crimes against the state. North Korea's Supreme Court on Wednesday handed down the sentence to the 21-year-old student from University of Virginia who is accused of stealing a propaganda banner from Yanggakdo International Hotel. Warmbier had entered North Korea as a tourist in late December but was arrested on January 2nd while he was trying to leave. He confessed to the crime in an emotional press conference last month. His claims have not been verified, and other people detained in North Korea have been known to have retracted their confessions after their release.
I regret my actions more than anything. I apologize to both the Korean people and the government. I beg for forgiveness, and I beg for help in any way possible to save my life.
Phil Robertson, Deputy Asia Director for Human Rights Watch, called the sentencing outrageous and shocking, calling on the regime to release Warmbier on humanitarian grounds. News of the sentence came as veteran U.S. diplomat Bill Richardson was meeting with North Korean officials at the UN headquarters in New York on Tuesday to push for Warmbier's release. Detaining and jailing U.S. citizens have been North Korea's way of withdrawing high-profile visits, including one by former U.S. President Bill Clinton. Warmbier is one of 3 Americans currently detained in the North. However, his imprisonment comes just after heavy UN sanctions were imposed on the North following its nuclear and ballistic missile tests. Pyongyang could see Warmbier's detention as a valuable political tool for ratcheting up tensions amid its threats of another nuclear provocation. Kim Mo-kyun, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, troops from South Korea and the U.S. tested their bridge-building skills in a river-crossing training operation today. This, as our defense correspondent Kim Hyun-bin reports, to better deploy troops during a crisis.
South Korean forces are stuck at a river crossing, and all surrounding bridges have been destroyed by the enemy. With their attackers advancing, time is of the essence, so the troops call on their U.S. allies for help. Within 60 seconds, Cobra helicopters and tanks secure the premises, while troops start building a bridge. 30 minutes later, the bridge is up, and a whole division of troops and heavy machinery cross the river safely. This is all part of a river crossing exercise conducted by Korea-U.S. forces in Icheon, Gyeonggi-do Province.
This exercise was meaningful in that we integrated our river crossing techniques and enhanced our interoperability.
The bridge was built by 2 brigades with roughly 130 engineers from both countries.
This is a great opportunity for our guys to come out here and to be better engineers, to be better soldiers with our ROC counterparts. And it just builds a great relationship, and it just shows how our alliance with the ROC-U.S. Combined Division is growing.
The 2 engineering brigades will conduct more river crossing exercises and train an explosive ordnance disposal in the days to come. Kim Hyun-bin, Arirang News.
Now, shifting gears, there are now just 4 weeks remaining before Koreans head to the polls for the 20th general election, and political maneuvering is shifting up a gear. The ruling Saenuri Party faces a challenge as it is at a risk of a potential rift within its ranks as it wraps up the candidate nomination process. First, here's our parliamentary correspondent, Shin Se-min.
A potential internal rift is looming over the ruling Saenuri Party as it wraps up its candidate nomination list ahead of the general election in April. The party announced 11 nominations on Tuesday, but still has yet to decide the fates of several prominent figures, including political heavyweight Yoo Sung-min, a 3-term lawmaker, and once a key ally of President Park Geun-hye. President Park and Yoo had clashed last year after the president called him out for practicing a politics of betrayal following an address made by then-floor leader Yoo. In a speech to the full assembly in April, Yoo said the Park administration's promise to expand social welfare without raising taxes is unrealistic. Lawmakers loyal to President Park claim that this, along with other comments made by Yoo, indicate that he and his associate lawmakers have a different identity and political beliefs from the ruling party. But excluding Yoo from the nomination won't be easy, as it could jeopardize the party's chances in the April's election in the capital region. In a move to freshen up the image, the party has already cleared its ranks of sitting lawmakers, including 7 of a dozen non-Park faction members who are seeking for re-election. Shin Se-min, Arirang News.
Well, on the other side of the political aisle, the main opposition Minjoo Party of Korea's interim leader Kim Jong-un has set out a goal of winning 107 seats, the number of parliamentary seats currently occupied by that party in the upcoming general election. Kim said if the Minjoo Party fails to secure the expected 107 assembly seats, then he would resign from his leadership post. Now, in regards to his merger proposal with the newly fledged People's Party, Kim backed away from his original plan as the minor opposition party vehemently opposed any form of coalition. But Kim did leave the door open for forming electoral alliances with the People's Party in key districts. The Minjoo Party also put back incumbent lawmaker Yoon Woo-duk on the candidate list after Yoon was previously cut off from the in-house primary due to ethical lapses. Meanwhile, the minor opposition People's Party has gained a new member, giving the new party the ability to form a parliamentary negotiation bloc with 20 lawmakers and welcomed another back into the fold. We continue our elections coverage with Ji Myung-gil.
An Cheol-soo may be inching closer to his goal of making Korea into a 3-party system, following the debut of his People's Party early last month. Lawmaker Chung Ho-jun joined the party on Wednesday after defecting from the main opposition party the day before, giving the party 20 seats and the ability to form a negotiating body within parliament. If the party is able to hold on to the seats until March 28th, it will be eligible for roughly $6 million in election funding from the National Election Commission. As the minor opposition party celebrated its new stature and also welcomed co-leader Chun Jung-bae's return to party business at a Supreme Council meeting on Wednesday, signaling a reconciliation between the two.
I thank Representative Chun for re-engaging in the party. With that, the People's Party will become stronger and more stable. Our party will strive to implement a politics that is for the people.
Chun had been refusing to participate in party business for 4 days, amid a debate with An over an electoral alliance with the main opposition Minjoo Party of Korea. Chun had once argued for the merger but is now siding with An and says it's not an option. He promised to rededicate himself to the party ahead of the election.
There are just 4 weeks until the general election, and senior members of the People's Party, including myself, must show our determination to win. Our party must do everything we can to block the Saenuri Party from gaining an overwhelming victory.
Chun's one-time ally on the issue, veteran politician Kim Hwang-gil, is still advocating for the merger, saying it will give the party a better chance in the upcoming election. Ji Myung-gil, Arirang News.
President Park has once again thrown support behind her signature creative economy drive, a policy that calls for turning creative ideas into real businesses with the help of science and information technology. Now, on this Wednesday, she visited one of her 17 innovation centers across the nation in Korea's southeastern port city of Busan. As our top office correspondent Song Ji-sun reports, it's the latest in the president's series of tours meant to boost startups and small companies.
저도 기회가 될 때마다 현장을 방문해서 좋은 성과가 확산될 수 있도록 노력하고 또 부족한 점은 없는지 살필 것입니다.
Keeping up with her words, President Park Geun-hye dropped by the Busan branch of the nation's innovation centers on Wednesday after visiting the Daejeon Center last month and the Daegu branch last week. President Park checked the progress at the Busan Center, which marked its one-year anniversary on Wednesday. Since its inauguration, the center has offered more than 1,000 consultations to small and mid-sized businesses, helping them turn their innovative ideas into real businesses. President Park then visited a fishery processing plant, where she noted Busan's marine products could emerge as a new export item. She also stepped by at a welfare center for senior citizens to hear their comments on pension and welfare programs, and pledged to create more jobs customized for the elderly. 송지선, Arirang News.
Well, it could be a few years, maybe decades, before some of our daily routines like driving are handled by artificial intelligence. While it's arguably the most important advancement for our future, it's still uncharted territory that raises concerns. Our Kim Ji-yeon tells us there's a real need to develop a legal mechanism around AI in its early stages.
DeepMind, which developed Hadoop or Go playing computer program AlphaGo, started with 3 young men in Britain in 2010. 4 years later, the startup developed artificial intelligence, and they instantly became billionaires after DeepMind was acquired by Google.
The startup environment was one of the best anywhere in the world, as creative ideas and various technologies lead to new jobs for young people.
DeepMind's AI, equipped with advanced arithmetic and big data analytics skills, is widely expected to offer far-reaching benefits. Its application in the real world is ongoing, particularly in the development of self-driving cars, medical treatment, and dealing with stock market risks. It's also expected to solve more complicated social dilemmas. That's why AI is being referred to as the fourth industrial revolution by IT experts.
I think there will be a fight for data among industries in the future. The firms with data and a way of creating a new service or solution through AI will be on top.
But the real-life adoption of this type of technology not only raises ethical questions, but legal ones as well. For instance, if a self-driving car causes a traffic accident, or if a super-intelligent machine gives a wrong diagnosis, who would be held responsible?
These types of concerns show there's a need to set guidelines and license systems before AI systems go fully mainstream.
The Korea-based KT Economic Research Institute says the country's AI-related market volume will steadily increase to surpass $23 billion by 2030. Kim Ji-yeon, Arirang News.
Well, not so rosy news. Korea's youth unemployment rate reached a record high in February. Although the government is pointing to some unusual factors unique to last month, it will not be easy to stamp out concerns about a sluggish job market amid feeble recovery momentum. For details, we turn to Hwang Ji-hye.
Here at this university in Seoul, if you ask students what they want to do after graduation, you pretty much get the same answer across the board.
I'm trying to take the exam to become a patent attorney after I graduate.
I'm still a sophomore in college, so I haven't been specifically thinking about which state-run exam I'll take, but I'm discussing about it with my seniors.
This trend of young people looking for workplaces with job security, the government says, is what sharply raised unemployment figures last month. While exam applicants are classified as part of the economically inactive population before they take the test, they automatically become job seekers afterward.
There was the civil service entrance exam, and the number of applicants rose by 32,000 this year compared to a year ago. Among them, 24,000 are in their 20s, and that pushed up the youth jobless rate by half a percentage point.
The government also points to some temporary and seasonal factors like the effect of winter, which usually puts a damper on the job market. Experts say, however, the jobs figures this month actually give a clearer picture of what the numbers might have excluded.
Comparing the data of the first 2 months of this year with those of last year or a year before that, I think it's right to say job conditions worsened due to slumping economic conditions.
Facing numbers that continue to reflect the sluggish job market conditions for Korea's younger generation, the government plans to lay out a fresh and comprehensive set of measures to tackle the issue next month. Experts say such measures should include drastic reforms that close the gap between temporary and regular workers, as well as small and mid-sized firms and large companies. 황지혜, Arirang News.
Now, China's Premier Li Keqiang is confident in the Beijing government's economic policies. Closing the National People's Congress today, the Chinese premier vowed there would be no hard landing for the world's second largest economy, even as the government presses ahead with painful reforms. Lee Ji-won reports.
Chinese Premier Li Keqiang said China will not suffer a hard landing as long as it continues to reform and open up. At the annual press conference after the closing session of the 12th National People's Congress on Wednesday, Premier Li showed confidence in the Chinese economy, saying that it would be impossible for the country to miss its growth target of 6.5 to 7%. Although he acknowledged skepticism about the claim, making reference to the risk posed by the Chinese market, Premier Li said that the world's second largest economy is still full of possibility and there is more opportunity overall. In his plans to invigorate the economy, he said the country would try to make it easier for entrepreneurs to start businesses by improving financial regulations and promoting market-oriented reforms. He also talked about scaling back on government influence and ensuring fair competition. To the rising debt problem and the fluctuating stock markets, he said that the country has the ability to manage such financial difficulties with large reserves at financial institutions and a high savings rate.
The stock, bond, and the currency market are all market entities, so we will continue to pursue market-oriented reforms and establish a sound legal framework for the operation of these markets. The government has a regulatory obligation and still needs to improve our regulatory system, first of all by extending regulatory coverage to all financial products.
He added that he will continue to reform the market and strengthen the rule of law to improve the country's financial markets. Lee Ji-won, Arirang News.
Now, in other news, the PyeongChang 2018 Winter Olympic Games are less than 2 years away, and the International Olympic Committee was in Korea for a progress report on preparations work. The verdict? A big thumbs up. Our Kwon Jang-ho has this report.
On the right track. That's the verdict the International Olympic Committee gave after a meeting held with the PyeongChang Organizing Committee on Wednesday.
We have had a very productive 3-day visit. It has been excellent presentations, and we have a very collaborative spirit between our organizations.
The brand new Alpensia Sliding Center, where events such as bobsleigh and luge will take place, was of some concern recently. An inspection and test event earlier this month revealed issues with the refrigeration plant, causing difficulties in maintaining the ice in optimal conditions. But the IOC representative Gunilla Lindberg reassured that it was not a big problem and said that's what these test events are for. Lindberg was also impressed with last month's series of events that were designed to test out some new ski and snowboard courses. They ran without a hitch, and they were a hit with the athletes as well.
It's got good length to it, it's wide open, big features, we're catching a lot of air. The track today you could hold the Olympics on, for sure.
It's really exciting to be a racer, and I think it's exciting to be a spectator as well here.
The IOC also gave positive remarks regarding the amount of sponsorship that had already been secured, noting that 70% of the target has been met. This was outlined by a partnership signing ceremony between the IOC and one of Korea's largest conglomerates, Lotte Group, earlier in the day. Lotte will now be able to use Olympic branding in its department and duty-free stores. The IOC added that there is still much to do, and now the PyeongChang Organizing Committee will be looking ahead to the next winter sports season, where 24 more test events will be taking place. Kwon Jang-ho, Arirang News.
weather affects marketing. Some of us may not realize it, but it does. With 75 years of climate data cross-referenced with reams of shopping research, marketers can now use the weather to predict sales. And they take full advantage of it because while marketers can't manage weather, they can certainly manage the financial implications of weather. Weather and business, our news feature tonight with Oh Soo-young.
An increasing number of businesses in Korea are using weather information or climate data to help them predict consumer preferences and to boost their sales.
Climate data management is a tool used by businesses to create profit or add value to their services or operations. Korea's climate industry is worth about $300 million. There are currently about 125 companies that actively use weather information, and the number is growing.
That's especially true for convenience stores and certain retail shops, for which a drop in temperature of just 1 degree Celsius can cut daily revenue by an average of $10. That's why major convenience store chains in Korea use weather information to determine which items to put on the shelves and adjust inventory levels.
We provide data on how weather has affected sales in the past, and convenience stores use the information. If it's hot, the stores might put more ice cream on display, and on rainy days, they'll load up on umbrellas. And if it's cold, they'll pile up on steamed rice buns.
One company uses customized weather data to help it create seasonal dishes for hundreds of department store canteens and workplace cafeterias around the country. When you can't decide what to have for lunch, why not go for something seasonal? Here you can select from a range of menus that are recommended based on the weather that day. A spicy bowl of stew or a mixed vegetable hot pot. Both are popular choices for a rainy day.
Based on annual data, we recommend dishes for hot, cold, rainy, and snowy days, and the response from customers has been positive.
The canteen uses its own weather information to predict customer visits for a given day or week. It also keeps track of popular seasonal dishes and adjusts its menu and stock of ingredients. All of this has helped reduce its production costs by $1.7 million in a single year. It's also cut its food waste by 300 tons, saving about $82,000. With an increasing number of Korean businesses using climate data to boost their operations and their earnings, the industry is steadily growing. It hit more than $300 million last year. Still, experts say Korea lags behind other countries with more sizable climate data markets.
The climate data industry in the U.S. is worth over $8 billion and is more than $4 billion in Japan. The market in Korea is only a tenth of that. The U.S. and Japan have broadened the scope of their climate-related businesses to the legal, medical, consulting, consumer research, and even financial services fields.
To foster Korea's climate data industry, experts say accessibility is the key. They say information systems should be further developed to optimize data collection. And there's also a need for specialized personnel to analyze and translate the data for businesses in a wide variety of fields. Looking forward, they say climate data management will likely settle as an essential business strategy in Korea. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News.
Well, a big day for the U.S. race for the White House. Party frontrunners walked away the biggest winners Tuesday in the U.S. presidential primaries. Bruce Harrison is live in the studio. Now, Bruce, how did Mini Super Tuesday break down?
Mini Super Tuesday. Well, Keun-young, it's not hard to believe at this point. Donald Trump, the businessman, walked away with several victories, including a win in Florida, which was the biggest prize of the night. Former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton won at least 4 contests on the Democratic side, including industrial states Illinois and Ohio, after losing Michigan in that region last week.
Definitely a strong recovery on the part of Clinton. And at the end of the night, front runners were front runners. But what about the challengers' campaigns?
And that's where things got interesting, especially on the Republican side. Take a look at perhaps the biggest story from Tuesday. That's the win for Governor John Kasich in his home state of Ohio. There he beat Donald Trump by more than 10% and won all of the state's delegates.
You better believe it's about America, about pulling us together, not pulling us apart. It is about USA. Exactly.
Kasich's win is key for establishment Republicans who want to block Trump in the primaries. An outright win by the Ohio governor is unlikely, but with new life, his campaign could win enough delegates to block a Trump nomination. Ted Cruz remains second in the delegate count after Tuesday, while establishment favorite Marco Rubio bowed out of the race.
While it is not God's plan that I be president in 2016 or maybe ever, and while today my campaign is suspended, the fact that I've even come this far is evidence of how special America truly is.
Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders remains defiant after Clinton's sweep and says he'll continue his campaign to the party convention.
And the reason that we have done as well as we have, the reason that we have defied all expectations is that we are doing something very radical in American politics. We're telling the truth.
Candidates will now be focusing their energy on one of the next voting states that votes next week. That's the state of Arizona.
Well, some of us outside of the U.S. may be just baffled at how well Donald Trump is doing in this race. And early exit polls from these primaries have shown that many Americans are, in fact, dissatisfied with the current government about the economy and jobs and immigration. And the angrier you are, and if you're a Republican, the more prone you are to voting for Donald Trump.
Well, it's that outsider influence he's given these people, and it seems like that's why they're drawn to him. And there's a lot of voting left to do, a lot of states left to go. But as far as we can see right now, Trump is not going away.
Right. And then despite some candidates' gains, nailing them down, the winners, at least mathematically, seems a way off.
The way it looks right now, we could see these races, both sides, going all the way to the party conventions this summer, Kanyang.
All right, Bruce, and you will keep us posted on that. Thank you.
Of course, my pleasure.
And time now for the weather update. Let's go live to our Lee Ji-hyun at the Weather Center. Ji-hyun, it was a beautiful early spring day today, certainly welcoming, but a bit dry and dusty, I would say.
Right, so we have a welcome rain in the forecast for the southern provinces. Now, rain will start in Jeju Island from tomorrow evening before gradually spreading to other parts of the southern provinces. So Jeju and the southern coastal regions will the most amount of rainfall, up to 60 millimeters, while the rest will see 5 to 40 millimeters between tomorrow evening and Friday. But here in the capital and the other regions, other upper regions that is, will be under the mostly sunny skies, and mild conditions will continue during the day, but morning temperatures will still be on the chilly side, kicking off at 3 degrees Celsius here in Seoul, and Daegu and Busan will start at 4 and 8. But it's going to feel like early April by the afternoon, with high peaking to 15 degrees Celsius in Seoul, 24 Daegu and Jeju. Now it seems like the warming trend will continue through the weekend, and then the mercury will return to seasonal norms by early next week. Now that's Korea for you, and here's the international weather for viewers around the world.
And that is our broadcast on this Wednesday night. I'm Moon Gan-young. Thank you as always for watching, and we hope to see you right back here same time tomorrow on NewsCenter.